is Silje and welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. And yeah, this will be my top reads of 2021. And yes, I know I am fashionably late. I'm late. I had a really good reading year last year. I read some wonderful books, and I decided to stay in some of these books for a really long time, and yeah, it was a good experience doing that. I read some great new to me authors. I dived into books by authors that I adore, and this list is compiled by 6 books, and these are much more than just favorite reads of last year. These are books that I can't wait to revisit. They have all become favorites in general. They have made me, especially the authors that I haven't read before, these authors have become my not autobuy, I don't know if that's what's the correct term, but books that I want to read everything by. And I read all of them with Paperbird, and I will of course leave a link to his channel in the info box. And yeah, let's get started. Yeah, one more thing. 6 books, they are not ranked because I can't rank them, except for the 2 last books, which are not my number 2 and number 1. They are both my number 1s. So in that regard, you can count like the other 4 as my number 2s. Okay, let's start. The first book is Båten, kvelden, or The Hill's Reply by Tarjei Vesaas. And I want to say this blew my mind, but then I realized that all of these books blew my mind. So yeah, you can just think that all this blew my mind. This is his last Proust book. It is known to be his most personal one, and also most experimental one. He's playing with a lot of genre in this. You can find poetry, you can find flash fiction and vignettes, and also some longer narratives in short stories. He talks about childhood and childhood memories, about adolescence, about sexual awakening, nature versus human nature, and how it blends together in this gorgeous writing that is the writing of Tarjei Vesaas. Yeah, it's so dreamlike, it's so filled with symbolism, beautiful imagery. Yeah, it's just a extraordinary piece of fiction, and I adored it. And you know, it's Vesaas. His writing is beautiful and gorgeous, and it really fits this book. I think it fits all his books, but he can say so much with few words. You can see this is a very short read, but it's like packed. And yeah, great book. I will not recommend you this if you haven't read Tarjei Vesaas before. I think you need to read some of his other books first, but then dive into this. It's good. Let's see the next book in the pile. Oh, it's The Emigrants by W.G. Sebald. And 2021 was the year that I discovered, read, and fell in love with Sebald's writing. I read Vertigo, The Emigrants, and also Rings of Saturn, and I loved all 3 of them, but I decided that I should just have one of his books on this list, so I chose The Emigrants. What I like about, or adore about Sebald is his writing. I think it's so powerful, but at the same time smooth. He writes so seamlessly and just beautiful and comfortable. I really enjoy the way he is talking about memories, both the different characters' memories, the narrator's memories, but also like these collective memories, like the European memories in a way. And I also really enjoy the way he is structuring these novels, because it's novels, it's fiction, but he is playing around with different kind of formats. So you have parts that can look like memoirs or biographies, travelogues. You have a lot of pictures and illustrations here, and I think everything just adds to his books and make the reading experience so wonderful, in my opinion. I think the reason why I chose The Immigrants over the two other ones is because this book really ticked all the boxes for me. You have the memories, you have the stories of these four men that are immigrants from Germany and their stories, which was so impactful for me. And so it really hit me hard emotionally also. And I think this book has a paragraph that for me sums up all the three books that I read last year. It's in the chapter called Max Ferber, and in this paragraph Ferber is giving the narrator his permission to tell his story. But at the same time, for me, it sums up like Sebald's authorship. Once you are under the spell, you have to carry on to the finish, till your heart breaks with whatever works you have begun. In this case, the remembering, writing and reading. That is why I would rather you took this package, Ferber said, and saw me out to the yard, where he walked with me as far as the almond tree. I will of course read more Sebald this year. Next will be Austerlitz, and can't wait. Then another author which I discovered last year and that I read 2 books by, and both of them could be on this list, but I ended up with Flights, and the author is Olga Tokarczuk. In some ways I feel like this book can be a homage to the style of Sebald. They have some similarities, which I found to be really intriguing, because I read this one first and then I read Sebald. And she also have like some illustrations in her books, and one of them is the exact same that you can see in Vertigo. It's just added to everything for me and made me swoon. This is a book that is difficult to talk about. It has a lot of different stories, and in some way this is a meditation on traveling, being on the move, being in transit, and you have like these shorter vignettes that talks about it, where she goes into detail of some object, for example, and you also have these longer storylines with different narratives. For example, you have this story about a man who is on holiday on this island with his family, and then his wife and kid disappears, for then all of a sudden appear again after they have been looking all over the island. You also have a story about a man who is looking for a ways to, like, I'm not sure what it's called. It's like Dr. Blouse and his travels, visiting a man that is good at making like wax models of dead bodies. You also have a story about a young mother who all of a sudden leaves her flat in Moscow to live in the underground, and there she meets a lot of other people that have decided to do the same. And all these longer stories are interspersed with vignettes and flash fiction, and together it makes this beautiful and fascinating meditation and kind of philosophy on traveling. And yeah, I adored it, of course. I also read Primeval, which is super good and could easily have been on this list as well, but I think this is more a silly book. Yeah, another thing that I really adored was the way she's using historical elements and like historical elements with science and fiction and blends it together in this really cool way. So Flights by Olga Tokarczuk. Then I have a book that I haven't talked about, which is Marcel Proust's Swann's Way, the first book in Search of Lost Time. And I have no idea why it took me so long to read this book in the first place. I think I had this misconception that it would be difficult. It is not. Yes, the sentences are long and like winding, and he is easily distracted by things, but that's like what I love about this book. The way he, like the language is beyond beautiful. It's like gorgeous and so vivid and rich, and it's like eating dark chocolate while drinking red wine. It's like or touching velvet, and yes, it's gorgeous. So that's one thing. It's so comfortable to read. It's like super comfy, and you just feel like his sentences are just wrapping you in and like making you comfy. And I remember I read this book for quite a long time, and I was always longing for being surrounded by his sentences when I was not reading it. The first part is the narrator thinking back about his childhood, visiting his grandmother in Combray, and I love childhood memories. And one thing that really struck me is the way that he uses small objects to bring forth bigger memories. You have the Madeleine, of course, which is maybe the most famous scene, but it's like all over. He is like smells and like fabric and everything triggers these memories, and we're just tagging along his train of thoughts, which is something I love. And also it is pretty funny. There are so many characters in this book, and I feel like everyone, with their their faults and their they are not perfect people, but they are described and told with heart, and they are so funny. Like I was laughing out loud when he was describing the grandmother and the spinster and some of the other people in the village, and I had never imagining Proust being that funny, but he's super funny. And as I said, you can really sense that he is loving these characters, and he is so heartwarming and fun. One of these characters is Swann, and he is the main character in the other part of this book, which is Swann's Way. And we are going back in time to when he was younger, and he falls in love with a woman from a different class. And yeah, it's beautiful, it's sad and kind of painful, but yes, it's wonderfully written and so powerful. I can't wait to read the next volume in this series. Then I am here with my top one, like my number ones. And the first is blinding by Mircea Cartarescu. And I have talked about this in a reading diary. I think it's super hard to talk about it. I don't know what to say, but I loved it. It takes place in Bucharest, both in World War II and after, in the beginning of Romania being the satellite state of Soviet Union. But it's so much more than that. He is telling his story as a kid and an adolescent. He's also telling the story of his parents. But he is creating this dreamlike, sometimes nightmarish, mythological story about Bucharesti and his family. It's so surreal. It's like just entering a surreal painting and reading a surreal painting, or in some cases also just entering and reading a David Cronenberg movie. It's so filled with symbolism and imagery that are so powerful and vivid and gorgeous and terrifying. I love the way he's using the butterfly and how he is using the butterfly image, but also uses it in this scientific and neuroscientific way and blending it with fiction. And it's just, I loved every second that I spent in this book, and I love all the sentences because this writing it blew my mind. I can't really describe it. It's just something out of this world, I think. And yeah, read it. Just read it. And then my last, number one, is of course Nytt, namn by Jon Fosse, A New Name, the last book in the septology. And see, I get emotional just thinking about it. I think this was the perfect ending to a masterpiece. It made me cry. And but yeah, it had to end this way. And just Fosse's writing is so hypnotizing. It's so this like stream of consciousness that he writes in, the rhythm in his language, the what can I say, the way he's talking about art and religion and the relationship with Alice and Asle, and yes, I loved it. And yeah, that's enough for me babbling, I think. If you have read some of these books, please let me know what you thought of them, and please let me know about your top reads of 2021. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, ha det!